I'm the CEO of a billion-dollar empire, and the new intern is in love with my fiancée. The moment my foot connected with the intern's chest, I woke up. It turns out he's the hero of this story, and I'm just the pathetic, rich schmuck, the supporting character destined to hand over my money and power to the woman who despises me. Thinking this, I kicked him again harder. My fiancée, Elena, rushed forward to shield him, shoving me back. "Julian, have you lost your mind?" A slow, cold grin spread across my face. "I have a script now. You think you can still walk all over me? Who the hell do you think you are?" Just this morning, I had personally prepared her breakfast. The woman's expression was ice, her head buried in her work. But I was still pathetically satisfied, telling myself that at least Elena wasn't outright rejecting me anymore. Behind me, employees whispered amongst themselves, "Mr. Vance is so thoughtful. If a guy like that did that for me, I'd be dreaming." Amid the hush chatter, I heard a distinct choked sob. Elena and I both looked up. It was Caleb Shaw, the new intern she'd taken under her wing. He stood behind her, head bowed low. It seemed wherever Elena went, he was never more than a few feet away, a perpetual shadow. I knew exactly what Caleb was thinking, and I'd made my displeasure clear more than once. But Elena always protected him, so I had no choice but to tolerate his presence. Caleb lifted his gaze to meet Elena's. His eyes were red-rimmed, swimming with unshed, wounded tears. Elena's brow furrowed instantly. "Caleb, take out the trash for me." His eyes swept across her desk. The expensive, insulated container from the artisan deli, along with the gourmet lox and bagel I'd carefully chosen, was unceremoniously dumped into the trash can. A collective gasp went through the office. Caleb's face flickered with triumph before he quickly arranged it back into a look of timid deference, hiding behind Elena. "Ms. Ross, I don't know about this." "Mr. Vance personally brought." I said, "Throw it out." My vision tunneled with rage, but she just stared at me, her face a mask of impatience. "Julian, can you stop with the self-congratulatory nice guy act? It's pathetic." The cheap, greasy bacon, egg, and cheese from a streetcar got a tender look from her. The carefully prepared breakfast in the trash got nothing. I took a step forward, and she shoved me hard again. "Are we done here? Let me make something clear, Julian. If our parents hadn't forced this engagement to merge their empires, I would never, ever associate with someone like you. You think having a bottomless bank account means you can do whatever you want." Her voice dripped with contempt. "I'm not as shallow as you are, and don't you ever delude yourself into thinking you will get even a single ounce of my affection." Her words stunned the surrounding employees into silence. I stood frozen in the middle of the open-plan office, my heart feeling like it was being crushed by an invisible fist. My whole body started to tremble. Elena was just the illegitimate daughter of the Ross family, yet she used my love for her as a weapon, acting without any consequences. Did I really deserve this? The whispers started up again. "Elena Ross is way out of line. You don't humiliate the CEO in front of everyone, no matter what. And that in turn, Caleb, he's a nobody. What's with the crocodile tears? It's disgusting." My heart felt like a block of ice. I was about to turn and leave when a figure suddenly slammed into me. "Mr. Vance, watch out," my assistant yelled. I heard his warning fractionally before a pained cry. When I looked down, the flimsy paper cup in Caleb's hand had burst, its contents, scalding hot coffee, spilling everywhere. My assistant had managed to push me partially out of the way, but a burning wave of liquid soaked through the leg of my Tom Ford suit, a sharp, searing pain shooting up my calf. I stared. The lid wasn't even on the cup. "Caleb, are you blind?" "Sir, are you okay? Should we go to the ER? Be careful, you could be burned." My assistant rushed to my side. Caleb's eyes were wide with feigned horror. In his flustered state, the half-eaten, greasy bacon, egg, and cheese he was holding slipped from his other hand, landing squarely on my expensive, custom-made leather shoes. "I'm so sorry," he stammered, the picture of innocence. "I just thought you hadn't had breakfast yet. I had extra, so I was going to bring it to you." "Do I know you?" I snarled. "You want me to eat your leftovers? Get lost." "Ms. Ross has stomach problems because she always skips breakfast," he said, his voice trembling with manufactured righteousness. "I have to remind her to take her medicine every day. I was just worried about you, trying to be nice. Do you have to be so cruel?" He bit his lip, his eyes welling up again, a perfect portrait of a victim. A few co-workers started muttering their disapproval. Did he leave his brain at home this morning? What an idiot. How do you run into someone in a hallway this wide? Caleb started to sob quietly, his shoulders shaking. I watched it all unfold, a cold, detached fury building inside me until it reached its peak. My fists clenched at my sides. At that moment, Only one thought consumed me. The next second, I sent him flying with a vicious kick. And at that exact instant, the plot of the entire novel flooded my mind like a tidal wave, drowning my reality. I was living in a novel. I wasn't the hero. I was the disposable, villainous fiancé. My fiancée, Elena Ross, the illegitimate daughter cast out by her own family, was the heroine. And the intern, Caleb Shaw, was the story's leading man. It wasn't just me. My entire family, the Van Cess, were destined to become nothing more than stepping stones on their path to true love and glory. Elena would continue to despise me while shamelessly using my power and influence. Caleb, sharing her humble origins, felt an almost instinctual hatred for the wealthy, and the two of them fell for each other at first sight. Even though I had done nothing wrong, Elena would find reasons to hate me. She detested anyone whose life was brighter or easier than hers. According to the script, Elena would use her position as my fiancé to steal corporate secrets from Vance Industries, selling them to our biggest rival. With that, she would transform from a scorned outcast into the richest woman in New York. Afterwards, she and Caleb would systematically destroy my family, leaving me as the sole survivor. Caleb would even tell her, to make a man truly despair, you must first give him hope. Why should he be born with everything we have to fight and bleed for? We have to torture him. He would lie to me, telling me my parents hadn't died, but were just badly injured in a hospital. Then, on my birthday, he'd drive me to a remote, unmarked patch of land in the mountains and show me their graves. Utterly broken, I would be pushed from a cliff's edge to my death. And who would have guessed it? I was the one who gave Caleb this job in the first place. I'd seen him crying in the lobby after he failed his interview and, feeling a moment of pity, told HR to hire him. In the end, this pathetic pair would steal everything from me and cast me into the abyss. I had truly managed to find the two most disgusting excuses for human beings on the planet. Snapping back to the present, I looked at the whimpering Caleb on the floor. Mr. Vance, I'm sorry, I was really just trying to help. Thinking about what was to come, my eyes narrowed. I strode forward and kicked him again hard. Ack! Caleb howled in pain. A cruel smile twisted my lips. I was Julian Vance, heir to one of New York's most powerful families, the man in charge of Vance Industries. And these two pieces of trash thought they could overthrow me. He clutched his head and screamed, "Help! The CEO is attacking an employee. He's hitting me." No one moved. My demeanor was usually calm, almost placid. Today, I'd finally snapped. There was no way I was letting him off the hook. I took 2 more steps and landed several more kicks. He tried to scramble away, but then his flailing suddenly stopped, replaced by theatrical, trembling sobs. And right on cue, a furious shout came from behind me. Julian, what the hell is wrong with you? Elena shoved her way through the crowd, pulled Caleb to his feet, and pointed a shaking finger at my face. You're targeting an intern now? What kind of man are you? Get the hell out of here. Go home. I don't want to see your face for another second. And who are you to give me orders? My sudden change in attitude seemed to catch her completely off guard, a public slap to her ego. Caleb, now safely in her arms, whimpered about how much he hurt. A fresh wave of rage washed over Elena, and she lunged, pushing me with all her might. She probably meant to knock me over, but she was a weakling. I stumbled back a few steps before steadying myself. Enough! Stop embarrassing yourself, she screamed. Before, a command like that from her would have sent me scurrying away with my tail between my legs. But now I had woken up. Security! I waved my hand. 5 or 6 burly guards immediately moved to surround us. Elena's bravado faltered. She took an instinctive step back. Julian, stop this, okay? You can go make another breakfast. I'll eat it this time. I burst out laughing. You really think this is a joke? Her face hardened, her disbelief palpable. She couldn't fathom that I was no longer obeying her. Turning, she tried to lead Caleb away. I don't have time for this today. I have work to do. Let's go, Caleb. Stop. My voice was low and challenging, laced with contempt. Work? What work could you possibly do? What are you even capable of? You're just a freeloader, an illegitimate daughter living off someone else's dime. The words struck her like lightning. She began to tremble with fury. The term illegitimate daughter was her Achilles heel, a trigger that always sent her into a rage at me. Now, I had said it in front of everyone. Is this because I didn't eat your breakfast? Fine. Next time, I'll eat yours and Caleb's. Is that what you want? Julian, I'm warning you, don't push it. Seeing her look of utter exasperation, I slowly rolled my neck, unclasped my watch, and walked toward her. I kicked her squarely in the stomach. With a dull thud, she crumpled to the floor, her face contorted in pain. The entire office held its breath. Caleb's heart was bleeding for her, tears filling his eyes, but he didn't dare step in front of her to shield her. Security guards immediately hauled her back to her feet. I stepped up to her and swung my hand. A sharp crack echoed through the silent room as my palm connected with her face, leaving an angry red mark on her right cheek. That, I said, my voice dangerously quiet, was for being an ungrateful leech. If you're going to be my dog, you need to learn some goddamn obedience. Elena had never suffered such a humiliation. She turned to Caleb. What did you do to set him off? Caleb's voice was a pathetic, watery mess. Ms. Ross, I was just worried he'd get stomach problems, so I tried to give him my breakfast, and I accidentally spilled the coffee. It was an accident. Elena pulled him into a protective hug, her brow furrowed. Julian, you really love to bully the weak, don't you? He was just trying to be kind. Do you have to be so petty and blow this all out of proportion? It was a small thing, sure, I agreed. Except now my designer suit and my custom shoes are ruined by cheap coffee. And both my assistant and I got burned. You're a billionaire. Who cares about one suit? Can you stop this act? This pathetic attempt to get my attention is seriously pathetic. I laughed, a harsh, humorless sound. I may be rich, but I'm not an idiot. Since you're so eager to defend him, why don't you pay for the damages? Elena waved a dismissive hand. Fine, I'll pay. Just stop taking out on Caleb. You're disgusting. Don't ever try to get my attention like this again. She turned to leave with Caleb, but the guards blocked their path. An executive from HR stepped forward. Elena Ross, on behalf of Mr. Vance, your employment is terminated. Your salary is $2,500 a month. With 21 instances of tardiness and early departure this month, your final paycheck is $0. He paused, then delivered the final blow. The total damages amount to $1 million. Will you be paying with cash or card? Elena froze. $1 million? Where would she get $1 million? She had been working in my company for less than 6 months, living a life of luxury, all of it charged to the supplementary credit card I gave her. She had no idea what her actual salary was. On the day she was fired, she finally learned she was earning barely more than minimum wage. What are you waiting for? I taunted. Don't tell me the great Ms. Ross, champion of the downtrodden, doesn't have the money to back it up. Elena's face was a rigid mask. I don't have that much right now, but I'll get it to you. Laughter rippled through the onlookers. So Ms. Ross's gourmet meals and designer bags were all paid for by the CEO. Her salary isn't even a fraction of mine. Caleb's face was ashen. $1 million was an astronomical sum for him, too. He tugged nervously at Elena's sleeve and whispered, Ms. Ross, I'm fine, really. Just apologize. Don't fight with him. Elena's expression softened. Given a way out, she took it. All right, since Caleb is willing to forgive you, I won't press the issue. Don't be so childish in the future. Come on, Caleb, let's go. She turned to leave again. Did I say? You could go. They both stopped dead in their tracks. I casually picked up a bottle of water from a nearby desk and took a large gulp. Puffed. I spat the entire mouthful directly into Elena's face. Then, with mock concern, I asked, Are you awake now? Elena was completely stunned. The title of manager was just a courtesy I'd given her. In reality, with her high school dropout education, she spent her days at the office playing on her phone. Thrown out of my company, she was effectively useless. If she went back to the Ross family, she'd be trampled on again, subjected to endless humiliation by her father's wife. At that thought, she clenched her fists, her eyes turning red. Julian, that's enough. Is this what you wanted? For me to apologize? Fine. I'm sorry. Can I go back to my office now? As she turned, security guards grabbed her and forced her to the floor. From now on, Elena Ross and dogs are not allowed inside this building. I looked down at her, kneeling on the floor like an animal. The surrounding employees started to chuckle. Her brow furrowed. Her patience stretched to its absolute limit. Julian, what more do you want from me? I already apologized. It was the first time in our entire relationship she had said anything that even remotely resembled submission. A thin veneer of compliance hiding a heart full of poison. TSK. Elena, you're really quite an actress. Beside her, Caleb suddenly shouted, his voice cracking. Mr. Vance, don't push it. I'll leave with Miss Ross. He looked up at me, his eyes red, the very picture of righteous defiance. I sneered. Caleb, what do you think this is, a flea market? You want to leave? Fine. Settle your debt. What debt? Caleb doesn't owe you anything. Elena snapped, instantly protective. Caleb's face went white. Since Elena can't pay the $1 million, I said conversationally, then you can take responsibility for it yourself, Caleb. With every word I spoke, the color drained further from his face until he looked like he might collapse. Realizing the situation was spiraling, he decided to throw a tantrum. That's slander. You could just wipe the suit clean. I'm going to sue you for fraud. Ms. Ross, let's go. Don't listen to him. I pulled out my phone, calmly dialed 3 numbers, and put the call on speaker. A clear, official voice filled the air. 911, what's your emergency? Hello, I said smoothly. I'm at Vance Industries. I have a situation here involving assault and property damage, and I'd like to file a police report. The last trace of color vanished from Caleb's face. Only when the police arrived did Caleb finally understand that I was serious. He stammered through a pathetic explanation. I video called my assistant, who was now in urgent care clinic with his leg bandaged. My butler arrived shortly after with the scorched suit and the original purchase receipts. After listening to both sides, one of the officers spoke to Caleb sternly. The amount of damages is significant. If you fail to compensate, you will face a lawsuit. The thought of prison terrified Caleb. He immediately began spouting apologies and promises to the police. Only then did they agree to leave. His co-workers had all witnessed the humiliating spectacle. As the crowd dispersed, tears streamed down Caleb's face. Mr. Vance, you know what my salary is. You know I could work for you my entire life and never pay this off. To you, this is pocket change. Why do you have to bully me like this? A masterful piece of moral blackmail. For a second, I was almost impressed. What's that? Did my money fall from the sky? Does being poor mean you have no responsibilities? Caleb was speechless. Elena, her heart aching for him, fell back into her old habit of lashing out. Julian, how far are you going to take this? That's enough. All of this was just to get my attention. It's pathetic. Ugh. Her words almost made me gag. Elena's face darkened. Fine, she snapped. I'll cover the cost for him. Just stop tormenting him. She looked so sure of herself, so confident. She thought this was just a tantrum, that if she found the right moment to placate me, everything would go back to normal. But I simply held out my hand. Pay up. Elena was stunned. She had no money. Then a thought seemed to occur to her, and a sly look crossed her face. Our engagement. The debt would eventually be forgotten. This way, she could play the hero without spending a dime. A win-win. Her expression grew sullen. All right, you know how I am. She never expected me to produce a pen and a piece of paper. No cash? Then sign an IOU. She frowned. Is that really necessary? Julian, what is this all about? You just want me to pay more attention to you, don't you? I ignored her and motioned for security to hold them both down while they signed. Elena is co-signing as your guarantor. If she doesn't pay, you will. Hearing my words, Caleb nearly fainted. A guard gave him a sharp kick, and he yelped, jolting upright. The IOU is signed, Elena said, her voice dripping with impatience. Are you happy now, Caleb? She started to walk toward her office, but I blocked her way. Get them out of my building, I ordered the guards. Both of them. Fired. Like 2 bags of trash, Elena and Caleb were unceremoniously dumped onto the street. Even then, Elena had the audacity to think she could take Caleb for a joyride in my car. She pulled out the keys and unlocked my Rolls-Royce. Caleb's eyes went wide as he slid into the passenger seat. Ms. Ross, I've never been in a car this luxurious. I'm a little nervous. I'll protect you, she cooed. It's fine. I watched them from my second-floor office balcony, a dark smile playing on my lips as they got comfortable. I lifted my coffee cup and tipped it over the edge. The hot liquid rained down on Caleb. He screamed, "Ah, it's hot." Before Elena could even look up, I had turned and walked away. Even from a distance, I could still hear her enraged shriek. Julian, you're insane. Fine, you win. You finally got my attention. Heh, steal my car to take your boy toy for a spin? Elena, do you really think I'm that stupid? When they reached the busiest intersection in Times Square, people on both sides of the street stared in envy. Neither Caleb nor Elena had ever experienced such a moment of glory. Even when Elena used my cars, a chauffeur was always driving. She never got to be the one in the driver's seat, showing off. Look at them, what a good-looking couple. And that car. Man, I wish I was rich. The praise from the street went straight to their heads. Caleb's face was flushed with excitement. Watching the dashcam feed on my phone, the corner of my mouth twitched upwards. A moment later, sirens began to wail. Sir, ma'am, please cooperate with our investigation. We receive a report that this vehicle was stolen. Elena couldn't believe I would do such a thing. You must be mistaken, she said softly. I know the owner. I'm his fiancée. Whoa, fiancée? A bystander jeered. So, she's taking her boy toy out for a spin in her fiancé's car? That's rich. The murmurs from the crowd grew louder. Elena was mortified. Caleb was even more ashamed. Just moments before, he had been looking down on these people with disdain. Now, they seized the opportunity to mock him relentlessly. Ha ha ha. Turns out he's just a car thief. No wonder he was so arrogant. What a loser. Before they'd even gone 10 blocks, they were in police custody. Elena had to drain her entire savings account just to make bail. A disheveled and furious Caleb immediately ran to the hospital where his gravely ill mother was staying. Fourth floor, executive wing. His mother was currently receiving top-tier medical care, all funded by the Vance family. The moment Caleb arrived, he began ordering the nurses around with an air of arrogant authority. Schedule my mother for the best possible treatment regimen this month. If there's even the slightest delay, I'll have Julian Vance fire every single one of you. The nurses, terrified of losing their jobs, scurried to obey. His mother, Dana, lay back on her pillows, preening. That's my son, she crowed. And that Julian Vance is a complete idiot. You just need to get that Elena girl wrapped around your fingers, son. I'm sick of having to pretend to be grateful to the Vances. Their condescending attitude makes me sick. Caleb's face was grim. Julian Vance is nothing. Sooner or later, he'll be on his knees begging us for mercy. Just you watch, Mom. Oh, son, you're so brilliant. Every doctor and nurse on this floor was afraid of him, because this entire wing was underwritten by one name, Vance. And in this city, no one messed with the Vances. Now that he was fired, Caleb couldn't go back to the office. He assumed I was just having a spat with Elena and wouldn't dare cancel his mother's medical funding. So he continued to throw his weight around the hospital. He demanded the most expensive meals, the most luxurious bedding. Everything had to be the absolute best. This went on until I received a call from the assistant of another patient on the 4th floor. Julian, we don't mean to meddle, but we were wondering about the people in your family's suite. A number of valuable items have gone missing from the rooms on this floor recently, and we don't usually have strangers around here. We were just wondering if you could look into it. I glanced at the security footage on my monitor and smiled. Don't worry, everyone. I'll handle this. I'm on my way. Afterwards, I explained the situation to my parents and my sister, Chloe. They all insisted on coming with me. This is absurd, my father thundered. What has this Caleb been doing in our name? That family is disgusting. Son, you have to call the police. The Vance family will not be a scapegoat for their crimes. Of course not, I said, dialing the hospital administration. My sister, Chloe, however, was distraught. She couldn't believe Caleb would do such a thing. Mrs. Shaw is very sick, she argued, and we're helping them. They must be grateful. Why would they steal anything? Let's go and see for ourselves, I said calmly. I instructed the hospital to immediately cease all funding for Dana Shaw's treatment. After hanging up, I returned my attention to the security feed. A nurse quickly went to their room to deliver the news. At that moment, Caleb was in the middle of berating an orderly. The nurse, a wide grin on her face, disconnected Dana's and began packing up her medications. Mr. Shaw, your privileges here have been revoked. You need to vacate the premises immediately. Take all her things, the nurse told the orderlies. All future treatments are canceled. The Vance family is no longer funding her care, and he is not allowed back on this floor. The orderly's eyes lit up. Yes, ma'am. Dana Shaw was stunned. Forgetting she was a patient, she leaped out of bed and grabbed an orderly's arm, screaming, What do you think you're doing? My medicine was just imported from Switzerland. On whose authority are you taking it? I'll have Julian Vance fire all of you, you bitch. Caleb slapped the nurse across the face. You trash. Did I give you permission to touch that? Who the hell do you think you are? Well, you've certainly got a temper. I pushed the door open and walked in, my parents and sister behind me. Caleb never expected to see me here. The color drained from his face. The nurse he'd slapped stood beside me, covering her cheek with her hand. Caleb's demeanor changed in an instant. Mr. Vance, thank you so much for your help. My mother is only receiving such wonderful care because of you. You're our family's savior. He grabbed my sleeve, tears streaming down his face, tried to guilt-trip me into continuing the funding. My mother was the first to speak. Mrs. Shaw, our family may be wealthy, but we draw the line at funding ungrateful parasites. Your son has been actively seducing my son's fiancée while on my son's payroll, and we're still expected to pay your medical bills? I don't know if you're sick in the head, or if you think we are. After my mother finished, my father simply motioned for our bodyguards to remove all of their belongings. Dana Shaw panicked. Caleb stared at me, his eyes full of wounded betrayal. Julian, your family is rich. What a few $1,000s to you? Are the lives of poor people worthless? Is this just a game to you? It's just money. I know you look down on me, but I'll borrow the money from Ms. Ross and pay you back. Caleb Shaw, don't owe anyone anything. He made a show of pulling out his phone, trying to threaten me. He knew how much I cared about Elena. Even when we fought, I was always terrified of upsetting her. This time, however, I agreed. Fine. The total cost of treatment so far is $2 million. The Vance family never said this was a donation. It was an advance. If you can't pay it back, Caleb, you'll go to jail. Good luck with that. Caleb collapsed to the floor, glaring at me with eyes full of disbelief. I helpfully dialed Elena's number and held the phone out to him. Her voice came through the speaker. What is it, Julian? Have you come to your senses and decided to apologize? Caleb wants to borrow some money from you, I said, then held the phone to Caleb's ear. His face went chalk white. Elena took a deep breath. Caleb, what happened? Caleb immediately started sobbing. Mister, Vance kicked us out. My mom's treatment isn't finished, and now he's demanding I pay him back for all the medical bills. My mother heard his pathetic tone and let out a cold, derisive laugh. Even my sister, Chloe, froze. In her mind, Caleb was a perfect gentleman. How could he speak in such a manipulative way? Elena, ever the protector, said sharply, "Put Julian on the phone. I'll talk to him." I took the phone and switched it to speaker. Elena's voice was arrogant and demanding. Julian, that's enough. What did Caleb do that was so wrong? This childish tantrum of yours is exhausting. Settle Mrs. Shaw back in her room immediately, and we can talk about this when I'm back at the office. Elena, whether you come back to the office has nothing to do with me. What's this? You're going to help him pay. There was a long silence on the other end. Finally, she said, Do I have any money? Are you pretending to be stupid? You're the one pretending, acting like a big shot with no cash to back it up. I hung up. Caleb's face was a mask of despair. He threw himself to his knees in front of my mother. Mrs. Vance, my mother's illness can't wait. I don't have the resources. I'm begging you. Just let her finish her treatment before you kick us out. I know this amount of money is nothing to you. My sister Chloe looked at him, her heart breaking. Mom, Caleb's family is in a terrible situation. Julian already fired him. They can't even afford daily expenses, let alone medical bills. Don't be so cruel. Slap. My father struck my sister across the face. In my entire life, I had never seen my father raise a hand to either of us. It was the first time. Chloe stared in shock, and Caleb's face grew even paler. Chloe, did you spare a single thought for your brother when you said that? My father roared. You're his sister, yet you defend this. This person, I am profoundly disappointed in you. Mike, he said to his assistant, cancel all of Chloe's credit cards. Just like that, my sister was cut off. I felt a sense of relief. So, Caleb, you wanted to make my sister your next meal ticket? Dream on. Caleb watched as his mother's belongings were piled in the hallway. He collapsed onto the floor, utterly defeated, tears streaming down his face. Even then, his mother continued to harass my parents, blocking their way. Just because you're rich and powerful, you think you can toy with poor people like us? All you lost was the cost of a dinner. But my son is about to lose his mother. Bystanders started to gather. My mother, her face tight with anger, was at a loss. Her refined upbringing left her ill-equipped to deal with such a shameless shrew. I suddenly remembered how, in the original story, Caleb had used our family as a stepping stone to become a titan of industry. His mother had then delighted in humiliating my parents with petty cash. I wasn't going to let her off so easily. I narrowed my eyes. Mom, I said, my voice cold, they can't leave just yet. The nurses on this floor mentioned that some of the other wealthy patients have been missing valuable items lately. Dana's face went white. Caleb started to panic. Mom, let's just go. We'll figure something out. You two stop right there. The orderlies they had bullied before now surrounded them, their faces grim and their voices dripping with sarcasm. Well, a thief. And here I thought you were the wife of some board chairman, the way you were acting. Caleb cracked first. Julian, you have no right to detain us. We're not criminals. I ignored him and ordered our bodyguards to search their bags. Dana's protests were useless. The bodyguards snatched her 2 large tote bags, opened them, and dumped the contents onto the floor. The onlookers gasped. The bags were filled with expensive jewelry, jade pendants, heirloom gemstones, massive diamond rings. The nurse who had been slapped let out a cry of recognition. That's Mrs. Peterson's emerald pendant from the next room. She's been looking for it for weeks. And that's my client's pigeon blood ruby ring. It's been missing for ages. So you're the one who took it. Soon, word spread, and caregivers from other rooms came out to identify their missing property. This wing of the hospital was exclusively for the city's elite. When their valuables went missing, their private staff were naturally the first to be questioned. Everyone had been under a cloud of suspicion, feeling deeply wronged. No one had ever imagined the thief was another patient. I gave Caleb a slight cold smile. You're finished. The value of everything your mother stole is well over $10 million. I wonder how many years she'll get for that. Let me think. I watched his face grow paler and paler, probably long enough for her to die in prison. A strangled noise escaped his throat, and he collapsed, his body going limp. Soon, the various families joined forces and called the police. Caleb's mother was taken away in handcuffs, leaving Caleb alone in the corner with a few tattered bags. My parents and I left. Elena, that disgusting creature, was about to get a taste of her own medicine. On the way home, I watched the hospital security feed. Caleb was crouched in a corner of the lobby. Passers-by gave him curious looks. Whenever someone asked what was wrong, he would launch into his sob story. My mother was in the middle of chemotherapy, and the Vance family just threw her out. They're billionaires. This money is nothing to them. It's the cost of one dinner. And those things. My mother didn't mean to take them. She just thought they were pretty. Why do rich people have to be so heartless? His words left the onlookers stunned, but not in the way he intended. Your mother stole from people, and you're the victim? You gotta be kidding me. Caleb bit his lip, his plan backfiring. But his pitiful, handsome face did manage to attract one fool. A wealthy-looking young woman approached him, her heart moved by his plight. How much is your mother's chemo? I'll pay for it. Caleb's eyes widened. He had just grabbed her sleeve when Elena arrived. Caleb, you called me crying. I couldn't understand what you were saying. What happened? Seeing Elena, the wealthy young woman pursed her lips and gave Caleb a knowing, disdainful look. She slapped his hand away and brushed off her sleeve as if it were contaminated. Oh look, it's the Ross family's illegitimate daughter. She's practically a Vance. You dare to hit on other women in front of her? You deserve whatever you get. With that, she turned and walked away. Caleb's newfound hope was instantly extinguished. At this point, Elena was his only lifeline. After hearing his story, Elena's voice was like ice. I'm calling Julian. I'll make him get your mother out. This is his fault in the first place. She dialed my number. It went straight to voicemail. She stared at her phone in disbelief. Julian blocked me. I watched the feed and smirked. Blocking her was just the beginning. The real surprise was yet to come. I sent her a text. Ross estate. Family matter. Come home now. On the screen, Elena's expression shifted from cloudy to bright. She lifted her chin and told Caleb, just wait. Julian has gone to my family's house. He must be there to apologize to me. Once I have him wrapped around my finger again, I'll make him get your mom out. Caleb was still worried. He tugged at her sleeve. What about the $2 million I owe him? Don't worry about it, she said dismissively. To him, that's pocket change. You won't have to pay a thing. At the Ross estate, Elena's mother, Sharon, and the legitimate Ross daughter, Sophia, were seated on the sofa. Old man Ross was preparing to divide the family assets. When we walked in, Sharon's face lit up. Julian, what a surprise. What brings you here at this hour? We remained silent. Mister. Ross looked at us and announced, Elena will soon be a Vance. Our families will be closely tied. Therefore, Elena will receive 60% of the company's shares. Mrs. Ross's face turned black. She's still an illegitimate daughter, father. This isn't fair. Elena shot me a smug look. It doesn't matter if you look down on my mother, does it? After all, Julian loves me, not your daughter. Mrs. Ross was left speechless. My mother, seeing Elena's triumphant expression, finally spoke. We apologize for the intrusion, Mr. Ross. We are here today to call off the engagement. Elena was thunderstruck. Sharon shrieked. Call it off? Are you insane? You are not qualified to speak to me, my mother said, not even deigning to look at her. Mrs. Ross, however, smiled. She stepped forward and apologized gracefully. Mrs. Vance, if you wish to end the engagement, then we must have done something wrong. I hope you can forgive us. Elena was the family's dirty secret. Her mother had no real standing at the estate. Without me, they had no leverage over the primary family. What's happened, my dear in-laws? Sharon pleaded, her face pale. Our Elena hasn't done anything, has she? You can't just change your minds on a whim. Her entire position in the Ross household depended on her daughter marrying into the Vance family. If we rejected her daughter, her dreams of a wealthy life would be over. I cut straight to the point. At my company, Elena cheated on me with an intern. Together, they owe me $1 million. Frankly, I find the whole thing disgusting. Don't you dare slander my daughter. She's not that kind of person. Sharon snapped. She still believed I was a love-struck fool who would do anything for Elena. Ignoring the thunderous looks on my parents' faces, she began to lecture me. Julian, this world is full of temptations. You can't be so petty. Do you expect Elena to stop talking to all men after you're married? It was just a normal interaction. You're being too sensitive. Her heart belongs to you. That's all that matters. My mother, who had always been the epitome of grace, had her composure shattered for the second time that day. She slapped Sharon across the face, the sharp edge of her ring leaving a thin red line on her cheek. "Who the hell do you think you are?" she hissed, "to lecture my son?" Before Sharon could react, a voice cut through the room. "Julian, have you had enough of this?" Elena shot to her feet, and then, from the top of the grand staircase, Caleb Shaw slowly descended. Elena must have brought him here. The faces of my parents and sister turned to stone. In that split second, as the scene unfolded, Chloe saw Elena and Caleb hastily pull their hands apart. Understanding finally dawned on her. "Caleb is a two-timing piece of trash," she cried. "Julian, I was wrong. I should have believed you from the start." Her apology was loud and clear, and Caleb heard every word. He looked utterly betrayed and immediately clung to Elena for support. My father had lost all patience. He delivered his final verdict. "The Vance family is breaking this engagement. Mrs. Ross, I trust you will inform the public." This was exactly what Mrs. Ross wanted. Every day, Elena remained. Her own daughter's inheritance was at risk. "Of course, Mr. Vance. I am so sorry for what your family has endured. You know, we have more than one daughter. My Sophia." I cut her off. "I have no plans to get married at this time. Thank you for the offer, Mrs. Ross." She didn't press the issue. "Butler," she commanded, "cut off the living allowance for Elena and her mother for the next 6 months as punishment. I will explain the situation to Mr. Ross myself." Old man Ross, seeing his connection to my family severed, turned and stormed out of the room. "And find a new place for Sharon and Elena to live, immediately." This was it. They were being kicked out. Seeing her life of luxury about to evaporate, Elena collapsed onto the sofa. Her carefully laid plans had been dismantled before they could even begin. She looked at me, her eyes burning with hatred. "Julian, you've gone too far. Was this all some elaborate game, dragging our parents into this just to break up with me? Are you doing this to punish me? Fine. I'll agree to marry you at the end of the year. Now stop this nonsense. I'm tired." Beside her, Sharon grasped at this last straw. "Break up? What break up? The kids are just joking around. Elena is already part of the Vance family. Calling it off will ruin their reputations. My dear in-laws, let's pretend this never happened. Take the children home before we become a laughingstock." They were actually trying to force the marriage. My parents' faces grew even grimmer. I felt like I was listening to the world's biggest joke. I glanced at the trembling Caleb and helpfully pointed him out. "That man right there is your son-in-law, Sharon. Try not to get them confused." I smiled sweetly. "Oh, and the two of them still owe me $1 million. Let's see which one of you is going to pay up." I produced the IO. Sophia, the legitimate daughter, snatched it from my hand and scanned it. She shot Elena a withering, contemptuous look before handing it back to me. "I'm sorry, Mr. Vance, but this debt has nothing to do with the Ross family. Elena's allowance has already been terminated. You'll have to pursue other legal means to collect." Caleb's lips turned white, and he slowly backed away. The reality finally hit Elena. I had actually broken up with her. Fear began to overwhelm her. She started pleading, even dropping to her knees before me. "Julian, I was wrong. Please don't leave me. I know I ignored you before. I was just playing around with Caleb. It wasn't serious. My heart belongs to you, only you." I kicked her away, then bent down and lifted her chin. I could see the profound hatred swirling in her eyes. "Elena, you despise people like us, don't you? Because people like Sophia and people like me will always be the dream that someone who grew up in the gutter like you can never, ever reach." Her entire body trembled. Seeing her reaction, I twisted the knife deeper. "You probably already had a plan, didn't you? How you and Caleb would team up to destroy my family, take over, and leave us all for dead. But what a shame. Your little scheme was over before it even began, the day I kicked you out of my company." A look of sheer terror crossed her face. How could I possibly know the secrets she held deep in her heart? I leaned in closer and whispered, "It was all Caleb. He told me everything. You can blame him for being so stupid. Otherwise, you'd still be the future Mrs. Vance. Such a pity. All that wealth and glory, completely out of your reach now." My words lit a fire in her eyes. All the hatred she felt for me was now redirected. She lost control, lunging at Caleb, grabbing his hair, kicking and screaming. "Caleb, you bastard. You ruined me. Do you know what you've done?" Caleb was in no better shape. He was drowning in debt, and it was clear Elena was powerless to help him. Realizing he had nothing left to lose, he dropped the meek act and slapped her hard across the face. "If I had known you were this useless, I never would have pinned my hopes on you. You're worthless, broke, but still acting like you own the world." They began to brawl, tearing at each other, tumbling out of the house and into the street. They stumbled toward the middle of the road, oblivious. Let go of me, you bitch. You should be the one to pay that money. If it weren't for you, I never would have run into Julian. Shut up, you dog. If it wasn't for you, I'd still be the future lady of the Vance family. You ruined me. Go to hell. Watching them tear each other apart on the street was the best show I'd seen in years. I could have applauded. Just then, the traffic light turned red. The sound of blaring horns filled the air. Elena, desperate to escape, ran blindly into the intersection and straight into the path of a speeding truck. Caleb's hand was tangled in her hair. He couldn't break free in time. With a single horrifying scream, both were pulled under the wheels, killed instantly. The hero and heroine of the story, the two who were supposed to shine so brightly, were finally dead. They could no longer destroy anyone else's life. But I wasn't finished. Sharon, I said sweetly to Elena's mother, your daughter left behind a debt. I suppose that $1 million is up to you now. Sharon, of course, couldn't pay. My cheerful demeanor seemed to unhinge her. She suffered a complete mental breakdown. I heard the Ross family, not wanting any trouble, kicked her out without a second thought. She was often seen wandering the streets at night, shouting, I'm Mrs. Ross. I'm a rich society wife. Within a month, she was committed to a psychiatric hospital. As for Caleb's mother, Caleb was dead. This time, it was my turn to deliver the news. I remembered the arrogant way Caleb behaved in the original story, and my expression turned to ice. I knew perfectly well that if I hadn't woken up, I would be the one dead at the bottom of a cliff right now, not sitting in a prison visitation room. I would not spare a single one of these vipers. Dana, I said, my voice dripping with false sympathy. Oh dear, your son, in an attempt to run from his debts, was run over by a truck. It was such a gruesome scene. No one even came to claim the body. TSK, TSK. Dana began to scream and thrash, but she was in prison. No matter how much she raged, it was useless. A guard quickly subdued her with a baton. She had no outlet for her despair. The wealthy family she had stolen from would never forget, and she would never leave that prison alive. Perhaps in the novel, Elena and Caleb were meant to use their wicked methods to get everything they wanted. The author might have called them blessed by fate, destined for a happy ending. But the moment I woke up, I became the hero of my own story. The label villain was never meant for me. Fighting fire with fire was exactly what they deserved. After all, I'm the crown prince of this city, born with power and wealth. How could I ever lose? Ha 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 ha.